So I took this popular coffee table design and I changed it just enough to make it something that's actually going to last decades. So let's go build this thing. And then cut your legs to 16 and 3/8 of an inch. Make sure you also cut for the X's 2 of them at 20 inches and 4 of them at 10 inches. Short stretchers are going to be cut out of 2x4s, and you're going to want to cut 4 of them at 19.5 inches. And then you need to make 2 cuts at 34 inches for the long stretchers. And we're going to rip the long stretchers and the support boards to 2 inches wide at the table saw. After that, we're pretty much just going to drill pocket holes into everything that's not a 4x4. This is my Craig pocket hole jig. I use it all the time. It's amazing. I do recommend getting one. I'm not sponsored by them, but I will put a link in the description if you want to take a look at it. So yeah, just put 2 pocket holes on each side of your short stretchers or long stretchers and your support beams, and you're done. And I lost most of the footage of me assembling the base right here, but what you're going to do right here is take the 2x4s that you did not cut in half, the short stretchers, and you're going to screw them into your 4x4s. The top one is going to be flush, obviously, and the second one you want to put 2 inches up from the bottom. All right, the Farmhouse X's are a little bit trickier, but they're not too bad. So you want to take your longer piece. Use your miter gauge. I used a digital angle finder to find the angle that I needed. I'll link the one that I used below down in the description if you want to check that out. If you make it exactly the way I'm making it, you're going to have 39.5 degrees for the angle. And this is really important. You're going to want to cut longer than you think it's going to be. You're going to want to ease your way up onto it and like sneak up onto it so that you can get the perfect fit. The other side should be the exact same length. Maybe cut it a hair bigger and sneak up onto it just to be safe. You can always cut more off. You can't put more on. The other braces are going to get divided. So cut the same angle into another 4x4. Lay it out on top of your base. Mark where it's going to cross your other X brace, and then you're going to want to cut it a little big, and you're going to want to go slow and make any adjustments you need to until you get the perfect fit. And then once you get the perfect fit on one, you can use that to get the fit on the rest of the 3 that you need to make. Once you find your piece that fits inside of the other X's, that slides in, you're going to take that piece right up to the same one you've been working on. Put it up to the blade, and then put a stop block on it, clamp it, and cut it perfect, and don't have to measure anything anymore. And they end up the exact same size, and if you did everything correctly, then they should both slide in perfectly. I used my Wen biscuit joiner to attach the center of the X brackets together. I'm not sponsored by Wen or anything, but I do recommend buying this joiner. It's like, I don't know, like $60 I think is what I paid for it, and it is great. It's a great tool. I use it all the time, and for that price you really can't beat it. I'll put a link below so you can go check it out if you want to. And then to use it, all you have to do is put a line where you want your biscuits to go, line that line up on your, the fence of your joiner, and push it in. It really couldn't be easier. And then you just glue your biscuits in there and slide them in. It's awesome. And if you don't have a biscuit joiner, you definitely can use screws. You can just screw it in and cover your holes, plug your holes, do whatever you got to do. But I do recommend buying the Wen biscuit joiner. It's cool. And you want to put glue pretty much anywhere that the surface areas are going to touch on your rectangle base and your Farmhouse X braces. So you want to cover all that in glue before you stuff it in there. And I have a question. Why does everything when it comes to woodworking sound so dirty? All right, now you're gonna screw the X braces into the table base with 3-inch screws. And that's what it's going to look like. Pretty cool. All right, and then just do the same thing to the other side. Screw it all together, and then you just do a little dance because you're done. It's looking pretty good so far, I think. Then you want to get your 2-inch stretchers that you ripped on the table saw. And I like to put it all together with clamps first before I screw. And I'm also putting glue on all of the ends that are going to be, touching end to end before I screw it in. Don't forget your support brackets. You want to make sure you do those. One in the middle on the top and one in the middle on the bottom as well. All right, and then you want to find some 1/2-inch wood or a 1/2-inch piece of plywood and take it to the table saw. Rip it to 3.5 inches wide for the trim on the bottom. Cut it to 34 inches long at the chop saw. This trim is going to, the way it sits, it's going to hide the end grain and the sides of the shelf, and it's going to kind of like sit inside of it so you can only see the very top of the shelf, if that makes sense. All right, now we're gonna put the trim on the bottom, and we're gonna put glue all over it, and then we're gonna screw it in. There is gonna be another lower thing of trim that I'm gonna put on the outside of that is going to hide all of these screw holes, so you don't need to worry about filling them in or anything like that. And I didn't show me cutting it, but you also want to take your 1/2-inch plywood or board, whatever you used for your trim, and you want to rip another piece that is 2 inches wide, and you want to cut 2 pieces that are 34 inches long, the same length as your other trim that you cut. And we're just going to put a 1/4-inch round over on the top with a router, just for some decoration. And then we're just going to slather glue all over it and brad nail it on. And then you're going to fill all your holes with wood filler. What? All right, it's prime time. I like to use Zinsser Bin shellac-based primer. It's really good for like cherry, pine, and oak tannins, knots bleeding through the paint, water stains, smoke sap, resin. It's great for MDF and plywood edges, end grain that drinks paint. It dries to the touch in 15 minutes. You can recoat in 45 minutes if you have to. You can sand it the same day. It powders instead of getting gummy. It flattens grain rays, and it's a great base for enamel or lacquer. It sticks to almost anything: raw wood, old finishes, glossy surfaces, trim cabinets. It's not good on exterior work. You do need a little bit of ventilation. It has a strong alcohol smell, and it needs denatured alcohol for cleanup, not water. And then when it's dry, you want to sand it lightly before the top coat with 220 to 320 grit sandpaper. You just want to knock off the dust nibs. You don't want to sand through it.
I use my hvlp gun for just about everything. I like how quick it is and how smooth of a finish it leaves. I realize not everybody has a big air compressor and an hvlp paint gun. That's okay. There's nothing wrong with brushes and pads. It's just going to take a little longer. And with the paint I'm using, it actually goes on great with brushes because it naturally self-levels and it does a pretty damn good job at it. I use bare alkaloid enamel and I'm using black. I'm thinning it 20% so it sprays nice. Don't thin it if you're using a brush. And it dries fast, but it takes quite a while to cure. But when it is cured, it has a durable plastic-like finish and there's no need for a clear coat. And that is why it's my favorite paint to use. Let it dry about 8 hours or overnight and then sand it lightly with 320 to 400 grit sandpaper until it's smooth. Careful not to sand through the paint. I can usually get away with 2 coats. Sometimes I'll do 3 if I miss some spots and I need to do some touch-up work.
He looks like Professor X Vanilla Ice.
Now we're going to go over to the chop saw and we're going to cut some 2x10s for our top and for our shelf at the bottom. For the top, we're going to need 4 2x10s cut at 45 inches. And for the shelf, we're going to need 3 2x10s cut at 34 inches. But first, a word from my sponsor.
Here's a quick tip for your chop saw. If you're cutting a piece that's too big for your chop saw to cut,
Find out where you need to make your cut at.
then get a square and a clamp. Put it exactly where it hits your board. Clamp it on. Now make your cut. Flip your board. Butt it up against the square. Cut again. Perfect every time.
Sorry, I know that guy's weird, but he pays me a lot of money to show his commercials. I clamp a square to my bench, and that's how I make a stop. If you're able to do that, then do it. If not, then you're probably going to have to measure and mark every board, which is okay too. But I recommend making a stop block for your chop saw if you don't have one. Anyways, let's get our boards cut. So cut your 4 boards for your top and your 3 boards for your shelf, and then we'll move on. When you buy lumber from the store, it's never, or at least almost never, straight. It's usually bowed and warped, and if you stick it through a planer like that, it's not going to take all of the the bows and curves and stuff out. And you probably don't have a jointer this big either, and or a jointer at all. A lot of people don't have jointers. So what you want to do is build a planer sled. You just need something long and stiff. I'm just using some Baltic birch here. Got some nice Baltic birch, and I'm going to, this is my planer sled. What you do is just you stick your wobbly board onto it. You see how it's wobbly? Get it to a spot where it's not wobbly, and then you put little wedges and sticks and different things in there and hot glue it all down together, and then it keeps it all stiff so you can send it through your planer and it'll flatten one side. Once you get that side flattened, you take it off the sled, turn it around and run it through your planer. And then you have on the other side, you run it through your planer on the other side then, and then you have a perfect board. What a lot of people do wrong when they're building farmhouse coffee tables is when they're doing the top and the shelves, they just do pocket hole screws on the bottom of them, and then they screw it all together. And then a lot of them will do even a breadboard end right here. That's not a real breadboard end. It's just kind of screwed into the base, and as soon as you push down on that or someone tries to lift on it or move it, it's going to break. So we don't do that. The way they do it, it doesn't leave any room for wood movement. And then I saw another thing that they do is they don't even use stretchers, like long stretchers connecting the sides right here. They just use the top itself as the stretchers, and they just attach it straight to it. That's not good either. That really doesn't leave any room for wood movement. That's going to make your table crack. So what I do is I put everything on my planer sled and I get it all flat on one side, flip it around, get the other side flat, and then I, joint the edges and I do a proper glue up, and then I attach it using hardware that allows the wood to move and breathe, so it's not going to break. And that's what I do differently.
If you're not sure what a planer sled is, I recommend watching my planer sled video. I'll put a link on screen that you can click if you want to watch it, or you can wait until this video is over and click the link in the description. The sled is just to help you get one side of your board flat so you can surface all 4 sides. If you run a warped, cupped, or twisted board through the planer without a sled, it'll make it thinner without straightening the board, and it doesn't help. And yeah, it is quite a bit of extra work, but if I can do it, I'm pretty sure you can do it. And it's going to make our tables last a hell of a lot longer. And tell me that doesn't look pretty freaking good for construction pine. Just keep a shop vac handy, because when your planer sneezes, it makes a mess. The fastest way I know of to get a glue-ready edge on a piece of wood is with an L-fence on your table saw. It's not with a jointer. I don't even use my joiner anymore. With the planer sled and the L-fence, my joiner has become obsolete in my shop. I also use the L-fence a lot to mill rough lumber. I recommend watching my L-fence video, which I'll link in the description. Even if you already have an L-fence, I recommend watching it anyways because it's pretty funny. And look how perfectly this joints together with this other board when I'm done. Now that you have a perfectly straight edge on one side of your boards, you can go ahead and rip the other side. Now all of your boards are going to be perfectly surfaced on all 4 sides, and you're ready to glue them together. We're going to glue 4 of them together for the top and 3 together for the shelf. We will cut them to size after they're dry. I used biscuits to help align my glue up. I always use biscuits when I do a glue up. My one biscuit joiner was $50, and it's made my glue ups run so much smoother. The biscuits don't help much with strength, but they do help a ton with getting your boards aligned perfectly. I lost the footage of me drilling for the biscuits though, so you're just going to have to take my word for it. Now we use a straight edge and a circular saw to cut the top and shelf to length. Cut the top to 45 inches and the shelf to 34 inches. Use painter's tape and CA glue to stick the straight edge to your wood so there's no glue cleanup. Just put tape on the straight edge and the wood where the straight edge will go, then glue it down. And when you're done, it comes right off. So I lost the footage of me cutting the top and the shelf, ripping it to size. I don't know what happened to it. You can either use a table saw or a circular saw to do it. And what I like to do is figure out the amount that I need to take off of the width of the table, and then I take half of that off of each side. Instead of taking all of the width off of one board and having one skinny piece, I take half of the width off of each side, and I have two pieces that are a little bit skinnier, if that makes sense.
Time to sand. Yay. I like to mark it with a pencil so I know how much to sand off. Move up from 80 grit to 220. Everyone knows how to sand. I'm not going to show me sanding this entire thing. I have something hopefully a little more entertaining than that. Enjoy.
Now that we're done sanding, we're going to throw a 1/4-inch bevel all the way around both ends of the top with a palm router. I'm using a Wen palm router. It's only $50, does everything I need it to. I'm not sponsored by Wen. I just own a lot of their tools and I absolutely love them. They're basically the cheapest tool brand out there, and as far as the quality goes, I haven't had a problem with anything yet. But I'll link this Wen palm router in the description. You know what? I'm just going to link all the Wen tools I used in this build because I recommend buying all of them. So I'll just do that. I tried to stain it by hand, but since I'm in a chair, I didn't have the reach to stain it from long end to long end like you're supposed to. So I had to do each side at a time. I was absolutely pissed at the way it turned out.
Oh, it looks fucking terrible. What am I gonna do? What the fuck am I gonna do?
I sanded it down to bare wood to start over. When I get mad, I get a little reckless. So I said, fuck it, I'm gonna spray the stain on the wood real thick and even, and then just wipe it off. So I broke out my hvlp gun, and I'll be damned. Looks fucking incredible. And that's the story of why I use my paint gun for everything.
So then I moved on to the shelf and I did the same thing. And once it dries, you know the deal. Just flip it and do the other side.
All right, time to spray some clear coat. I use General Finishes Enduro water-based polyurethane. It's a little pricey, but finished products is the one thing I don't like to skimp on. You really get what you pay for, and you can ruin a project you worked hard on pretty quick with a sloppy finish. This stuff levels perfectly and dries in like 30 minutes, and you're ready for your next coat. It gives a factory finish. I ended up doing 4 coats with a light scuff between coats with 220 grit sandpaper. Don't worry, I won't show you all 4 coats. Time for some light celebrating. We're almost done. Just have to attach it. Go ahead and pet your dogs while we wait for the last coat to dry.
Look at that shit. Look at that shit. Look at that shit.
Now that everything is dry, it's time to put your base on the tabletop and make sure the overhang is correct on all 4 edges. Hopefully you have an easier time at this than I did.
These are the clips that I use to attach my tabletop and my shelf. I'm not even sure what they're called. A lot of people like to use Z clips. I think these hold better, and I think they're easier to attach. But basically, you can attach these to the end grain or the side grain because they have little slits in them. If you're attaching it to the side grain, you know, it has room to move this way. And if you're doing the end grain, it has room to move, you know, this way.
Now we just attach the top to the base. I mark where I want my holes with an awl. Then I pre-drill the holes. And when I'm attaching the screws, I do it by hand with a screwdriver, not with a drill. You don't want to strip out the holes.
All right, now it's time to flip the table over so we can put the shelf in. Now just drop your shelf in. As you can see, I was pretty excited that it fit.
All right, attaching the shelf is a little bit different. On the sides, on the long stretchers, we're still going to use these like we did on the top. But where it attaches to this, we're going to use these figure 8 fasteners because the bottom of the shelf is actually flush with the bottom of this. So there's nowhere for the L to go. So that's why we use these, and it still allows the wood to move. And I'll link these in the description too, just in case. I got these here Amazon clamps that they don't even sell anymore, but you can flip them around and make them so they actually push instead of, push instead of pull. I don't know, whatever that is. We're gonna try to hold the shelf in place so we can tilt it sideways and attach it.
They don't sell these clamps anymore, but there are a ton of clamps that you can switch around and make them separate instead of clamp. As you see, I'm putting microfiber cloths down and covering the spots where the clamps will contact the table so it doesn't mark it up at all. Flip it on its side so we can attach it. Here you see me marking where I want my screws with an awl again. Then I pre-drill and attach the hardware with a screwdriver. Put as many as you feel you need to keep the table sturdy. Put the L-shaped fasteners on the long side and the figure 8 fasteners on the short side. And that's it. You're done with your table.
Well, I hope you liked my video. If you want to watch my L-fence video, click here. And if you want to subscribe, click here. See you next time.